Are mobile devices harmful to the human body?
The point is that all the nicely, beautifully balanced cells in your body start to resonate in the same vibrational pattern as this imbalanced wave field of radiation. And that over time leads to stress, and stress over time leads to whatever you've got. You could put up with stress for ages, or you could be very sensitive to stress and it will affect you very quickly. And I always use the Keith Richards analogy here, which is that you can put a lot of toxins in your body for a long, long time before it gives up, because the body is incredibly resilient. The point I'm making here is that everyone thinks that if this was like really harmful, they'd feel something. But that actually isn't what's happening. It's like what you're doing is you're coming into contact with a vibrational wave field that doesn't agree with the wave field in your cells. The characteristic that we understand about the radiation field that everyone's missing is that within the center of the field is a 0 point. And that 0 point is basically a magnetic still point. And the electrical current spins around that 0 point. But that 0 point is never settled in the middle. It's always moving around. So it's agitated, and the electrical current moves around with it, right? But not in a geometric, circular, or torus field shape. So picture a donut in your head, and in the middle of a donut is empty space, right? And in the middle of that empty space is a tiny still point, a magnetic still point, which is what, according to the science of Dr. Lakisevich, we call the 0 point, right? And now imagine that that donut is a spinning ring of light, of electrical current. Effectively, that is the current that's inside all of your blood cells, and that is the current that's also inside the invisible wave field of radiation, right? And there's a difference between the balance of that donut in the radiation field and the balance of the donut in your body. And when the two donuts meet, the imbalanced donut makes the donut of the cell imbalanced because of the resonant effect, because we're basically picking up vibrations from everything that we experience, right? So the challenge is to get that 0 point in the middle of the donut of the radiation field dialed directly into the center so that it's in the same pattern as the electrical current or the donut or the torus field of the human body. We've got a whole generation of kids coming through that will never have known anything other than this. And can you imagine if we replaced all radiation fields with something that was balanced? They would just be like, they would just be like, oh my God, this whole thing, this whole electrosmog has just vanished. It's just disappeared. And I hold space for that happening. I know that this is a situation that ultimately all of us, once we really understand it, will want to reverse.
Hello and welcome to Celebrating You. And I am so excited to introduce to you Tim Sandars. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you. Great to be here. I'm an entrepreneur. I live in London, and I met a scientist a couple of years ago who had, wonderful access to free energy technology. And one of the applications for that free energy technology was to balance all radiation fields in our lives. And so he had this technology, and I met him and talked to him. And because he was a scientist and not really a marketing guy, I asked him if I could build a brand around his product, because if it was effective. So I took it home. I met him actually, funnily enough, in South Africa, and I took it home to London, and then I started testing it. And funnily enough, I knew how to test it by doing blood analysis and muscle testing and kinesiology, and I found that it was incredibly effective. So I built a brand around his technology, and I became his sales team effectively. But by doing that, I went on a journey to understand more about this free energy that he has, which is truly fascinating, but also all about his science, which rewrites particle physics and tells us a lot about why radiation harms us in the first place. And it's nothing to do with the electromagnetic spectrum, as in ionizing, non-ionizing. It's actually everything to do with energy, vibration, and frequency, as Tesla used to say. So his understanding of the body as this vibrational entity, which it is, tells us a bit more about why radiation is bad for us, or why we dissonate with radiation is the more appropriate way of saying it, right? It's not like you use a phone, it's going to give you something bad in a year. It's not like that. It's consistent use causes stress and agitation in the body, which over time is not good for you. And so that's my truth. I urge everyone to do their own research. I can point them to the right research, which they're not seeing in the mainstream news, because that's all written by your Googles, your Apples, your Vodafones, your everyone else, right? So they're the main advertisers, so they get to dictate the content, but we can show you where all the key reports are, which show that it does do harm to living cells. And I feel at Omnia, and my brand is called Omnia Radiation Balancer, we feel we have the real reason why this type of radiation affects us. And not only that, we've got a product which we can demonstrate will balance out all of those effects. And given the amount of time we spend on our phones, our laptops, everything, if we do show you and prove to you that that is a toxic experience, even though it's on a very sort of minor level, then my advice to everyone is understand that it's toxic, and then secondly, reverse that and transmute it into something that is harmless and a vibration that is actually resonant. It resonates well with the human body.
What happens when I use a mobile device?
The electromagnetic spectrum represents, if you like, old school physics, where they've classified all radiation in terms of how much heat it produces. If it produces enough heat to break a chemical compound or shake an electron off an atom or things like that, then it's classified as dangerous. But everything that's on the other side is just classified as safe. And that's the end of it. We don't have to worry about that because it can't generate enough heat. But what we're saying is that we've made another discovery, and it's an important discovery, which is that the vibration of the wireless radiation field that comes into all of our wireless devices carries a certain quality that we don't agree with. And we call that uncenteredness and imbalance. If you like, it's an electrical wave field. It's invisible. It's coming at us all the time. And the wave field of electricity is imbalanced. Whereas in our bodies, the electrical current that's running around all of our cells is always looking to be centered and balanced. So what you get is you get this agitated wave field of, if you could see it, of radiation, and then you get this perfectly balanced cell in the body. And when your cell in your body meets that field, right, what happens is, because we are electrical beings, right, everything in our body runs on electricity. Our hearts are big electrical pumps. Every thought we have is an electrical brainwave. We know all about this from alpha waves, gamma waves, beta waves in the brain. Every organ in the body has a frequency. Why is that? It's because it's electrical current that is spinning at a certain oscillation. So everything in the body is electric, right? Even me going like this is my mind moving the electricity in my body around, right? So we're borrowing energy from what we call the 0 point field to move stuff, and with our minds, we produce that electrical effect in the body. So the point is that there is an imbalance and an uncenteredness of that radiation wave field, that because we are resonant beings and we resonate with everything that we connect with, whether it's sunlight, whether it's good music, whether it's good food. I'm resonating with you right now, Maria, because we are connecting, even virtually. This is what we do. Exactly. I heard your guitar just now, which was beautiful, just before we came on. And I resonate with those sounds because that's what I'm programmed and conditioned to do. That's what I do as a vibrational being. So when I come into contact and into close contact, and the important thing about radiation is that it's all about proximity, right? So if I hold this right next to my ear, it's going really, really close into all of the cells that are vibrating in my body. And it's the same if I put this in my back pocket, or, in my front pocket is even worse because you know what's down there, right? The point is that all the nicely, beautifully balanced cells in your body start to resonate in the same vibrational pattern as this imbalanced wave field of radiation. And that over time leads to stress, and stress over time leads to whatever you've got. You could put up with stress for ages, or you could be very sensitive to stress and it will affect you very quickly. And I always use the Keith Richards analogy here, which is that you can put a lot of toxins in your body for a long, long time before it gives up, because the body is incredibly resilient. The point I'm making here is that everyone thinks that if this was like really harmful, they'd feel something. But that actually isn't what's happening. It's like what you're doing is you're coming into contact with a vibrational wave field that doesn't agree with the wave field in your cells, but your body will put up with it for a long time before any disease shows up. However, we're just about to move from 4G to 5G, which is when the intensity of these wave fields goes up by about 9 times. And when that happens, that just means that those electrical effects, those electrical imbalances in the body are going to be enhanced, and they're going to happen, those effects are going to happen quicker in the body. So for me, that's not good news. And of course, I urge everyone to do their own research on that. So the challenge is to meet the radiation field that's agitated and has a zero. I mean, we'll maybe get into this later, but the characteristic that we understand about the radiation field that everyone's missing is that within the center of the field is a 0 point. And that 0 point is basically a magnetic still point. And the electrical current spins around that 0 point. But that 0 point is never settled in the middle. It's always moving around. So, it's agitated, and the electrical current moves around with it, right? But not in a geometric, circular, or torus field shape. So picture a donut in your head, and in the middle of a donut is empty space, right? And in the middle of that empty space is a tiny still point, a magnetic still point, which is what, according to the science of Dr. Lakisevich, we call the 0 point. Right? And now imagine that donut is a spinning ring of light, of electrical current. Effectively, that is the current that's inside all of your blood cells, and that is the current that's also inside the invisible wave field of radiation, right? And there's a difference between the balance of that donut in the radiation field and the balance of the donut in your body. And when the two donuts meet, the imbalanced donut makes the donut of the cell imbalanced because of the resonant effect, because we're basically picking up vibrations from everything that we experience, right? So the challenge is to get that 0 point in the middle of the donut of the radiation field dialed directly into the center so that it's in the same pattern as the electrical current or the donut or the torus field of the human body. Now, I know that's all really kind of out there for most people, but I'm just trying to illustrate it in terms that people can understand. I mean, probably the most important test result that we've done that proves that is on water, funnily enough.
Water crystal photography testing.
Because water is always responding to energy as well, just as we are, right? So water is alive, it's actually conscious as well. There is a scientist called Dr. Emoto, and Dr. Emoto did a lot of studies on water where he exposed the water to lots of different types of energy. So he would go up to the water and he would say, "I love you," every day. And then he would freeze the water and take what he calls a liquid crystal photography or photograph of that water. And when he said, "I love you," over 30 days, he then photographed the water and then found that it was like a snowflake. It was like the perfect hexagonal structure of water, or crystalline structure of water. So he also would go and say, "I hate you," and then take a picture. And then he would say all sorts of things, like he would play music to the water. And then he would build up this body of work that showed that water absorbs the vibration of its environment or what it's exposed to, right? So if it's exposed to any type of vibration, and remember, when we say "I love you," all of this vibration comes behind the words, this intention comes behind the words and can actually be transposed into the water, right? So the water picks that up. Same with I hate you, it's a totally different vibration, totally different sound. So what we do is we get water and we fill it right up to the top and we irradiate it, right? So we make a phone call for 5 minutes and then we take a picture of that water and see what it looks like. And it won't come as any surprise that the structure is all chaotic. There's no organization there. There's no crystalline snowflakiness. There's nothing like that. And then what we do is we put the Omnia radiation balancer, which looks like that. It's just a patch that you put on your phone. We put that on the phone and then we put that next to water. We make another phone call for 5 minutes. Then we take a photo of the water and it comes out as a perfect snowflake. It organizes itself into structure and balance. So what we've shown there is that by applying this patch to this radiating device, we've changed the state of the radiation field, and that was picked up by the structure of the water because the water resonated with this new field, right? And that is the effect that we want in our bodies, right? Because our bodies are 72% plus water, right?
Muscle testing.
The other test that we do, it shows or demonstrates the same effect, which is muscle testing or kinesiology. And for those that don't know, that is dialing into the operating system of the body to find out whether it likes something or not, whether it's tolerant of something or not. A lot of people say, well, what is it? How does it work? It's basically, you can do it like this. You hold out your arm, you pull down on your arm, you'll be strong. Then you put your phone in your hand and you do the same test. And 100% of people that I've tested, their arm goes down. They're straining because it creates this electrical challenge to the electrical alignment in the body, like I said before. So when we put the patch on, people go super strong. And all these videos are on my website. That's what we want. That's an effect that we want in our bodies. We want to be feeling strong when we're holding our phones, when we're typing on our keyboards, because that's when we are coming into very close proximity with these electrical currents, which are imbalanced, and they unsettle the balanced electrical current in the human body. So we want to meet that radiation, transmute it, transform it into centeredness and balance so that it's in the same vibrational pattern as the human body, and then we remove the stress. We want strong bodies. The kinesiology tests always come really good. I have a lot of clients, or customers I should say, that are kinesiologists, and they come back and they rave about the product. They're like, I don't know how this works, but it's amazing,
Live blood analysis testing.
And then the other thing I've done is I've done live blood analysis, where I watch a video for 20 minutes on my phone. First of all, I take a baseline and just see your blood cells, and they just bob around like this, and there's space around each one, and they are literally looking like donuts on the tray. You can see this, and so my donut analogy of earlier on is very much mirrored in those blood sample results that I've got again on my website. Good blood should have space around it, look nice and plump, like a plump donut, and there should be space around the cells because they're all receiving nutrients and oxygen and all those sort of things. After putting my phone in my hand and watching a video for 20 minutes, which is a big blast of radiation, that's what I wanted to do, take a very strong hit. Then we took another sample and all the blood stuck together, right? All the blood, pretty much the whole sample started sticking together. So that just shows again that this dissonant effect happens in the body, and that's undesirable. So we want to reverse that. And sure enough, I then put the patch on the phone, watched another 20 minutes, and it went back to normal. So it was instant. It instantly corrected that electrical imbalance. And we continue to test in any way that we can and prove that there are good effects happening. But we still advise people to limit their exposure. Turn the Wi-Fi off at night. Take it out of your pocket if you're in a meeting. Not that anyone goes to meetings anymore, but move it away from your body. Just try and, even moving a foot away from this field makes a huge difference. And obviously, if you've got kids, be wary of just giving them a tablet and just saying, there you go, shut up for 2 hours, because like I'm saying, this is a challenge to the body that me and you, Maria, we didn't have these things as kids. So we went through our whole lives, you know, playing in the fields where there are resonant energy fields in trees and grass and beaches and everything else, which is the complete opposite of what you get from man-made wireless radiation fields. I just want to be very clear about that. Nature's frequencies and nature's wave fields are very much in the same pattern as us, and radiation, man-made radiation fields, are not in the same pattern as us. So we need to take ownership of that. Yeah, that's why I built this brand, because I care about that, and I want everyone to understand, you know, what's going on, because it's very dangerous in terms of the stress. It's actually called oxidative stress, which can lead to DNA damage and all sorts of other things. And there are many, many, many reports out there that are being swept under the carpet that prove this. Many, many reports. And I can show you, if anyone wants to just look up one report, then I would start by Googling the Bioinitiative report of 2017, I think it is. Just go Google that and you'll see just how many studies there have been that show that this isn't good news.
So tell me more about contrast.
It's the classic case of the boiling frog, right? It basically, if you put a pan of boiling water on a stove and you threw a frog in there, the frog would jump straight out, right? And it would just be like, oh my God, that's so hot, blah, blah, blah. But if you put a frog in a bowl of cold water or a pan of cold water and gently turn the heat up, and turn the heat up slowly and slowly and slowly and slowly and slowly, then you'd end up boiling the frog. It become desensitized to the heat increase. And that's what's happening with us right now, is that the frequencies and the intensity of the wave field is being turned up, turned up, turned up, turned up. And we're just forgetting what it used to be like to not have it in our lives, right? And that is what's happening right now. And we've got a whole generation of kids coming through that will never have known anything other than this. And can you imagine if we replaced all radiation fields with something that was balanced? They would just be like, they would just be like, oh my God, you know, this whole thing, this whole electrosmog has just vanished. It's just disappeared. And I hold space for that happening. I know that this is a situation that ultimately all of us, once we really understand it, will want to reverse. And I hold space for us finding technology that broadcasts data in a way that doesn't harm not just us, but animals as well. And there's people who do radiation studies on trees and show that trees are being affected by it, because everything in life is vibrating. Every atom in this wall is vibrating with electrical current. This is the quantum physics that everyone's starting to understand now, is that basically what is frequency? Frequency is the electrical current within an atom flicking on and off. And it's just a question of how quickly that does, because frequency just means speed. It's just the speed at which the oscillation of the electrical current turns on and off in the atom or in the cell, right? So ultimately, everything that's alive, everything, even the table and the whatever, and I mean, they're even doing studies on buildings to show that buildings are being shaken by these very strong 4G and 5G currents. And that, you know, anyone that's got a house will be concerned about that as well. Maybe they'll care more about their house than they will about their own body, because that's what I find sometimes. It's knowledge that we have to wake up to. It's knowledge that we have to share and empower ourselves to understand that there is great benefit in serving up data through radar that is balanced and not toxic. What I see going on at the moment in schools and all sorts, without any regard, and just this notion that just it's absolutely fine, no problem, that they would have told us if there was a problem, blah, blah, blah. But like I said before, I mean, I love wireless devices. I use them just as much as everyone else. I'm cautious about them. You know, I try and turn them off. I try and distance whenever I can and everything else. But ultimately, I make a stand for making them safe and sharing the knowledge that people need to do to empower themselves to take positive action.
Since devices are here to stay, how can we improve our relationship of balance with them?
If you think about what I'm saying in terms of the new physics of Dr. Lakisevich and understanding the importance of the 0 point within the donut structure of light, there's many things that can move that 0 point into the very geometric center of that donut or torus field of light, and one of them is human intentions. When we think good thoughts of love, of gratitude, of joy, that 0 point moves into the middle. That is resonant. That is what happens. That is our power. That is what we can choose. If you think bad thoughts of greed, envy, violence, anger, then that 0 point has an effect in your body as well. You make yourself stressed. I've made myself stressed, right? Through thinking thoughts of not being good enough and all sorts of other things. We have that power as conscious creators. And this is what I'm here to say, is that we asked for this situation of 24/7 connectivity, and we asked for it to be better and better and better so that we could download videos and talk on Zoom across the world. And it's our responsibility for accepting what the consequences of that are. But as master creator beings, human beings are, we're the ones that write love songs or build bridges or whatever and build wireless networks. As master creators, once we've understood that there's an issue, we can then create a solution. But that requires us stepping into this real understanding of the electric universe, the kind of holographic universe, the idea that there's electrical current in all of our bodies that is flicking on and off, on and off. Every atom is this spinning ring, spinning torus field of electrical current. Once we understand that, we can step into creating solutions that are in harmony with our body, in harmony with nature, and don't drive us completely mad. And I speak to so many people who are having headaches, like you are having headaches, sleeping problems. These are the first signs that your body is under stress. They don't know what it is. What is it? Is it my life? Is it my diet? Is it whatever? Or is it wireless radiation? Because it could well be. And there are lots of other signs coming up from people who are struggling to have kids and all sorts of other things. And why is this happening? And it's very difficult to put your finger on it and say it's absolutely because of this, because what's happening, as I've said already, is attritional. It happens over years of, it's like gradually wearing yourself down. And I sometimes liken it to smoking, because after 30 years of smoking, you can expect to have black lungs, right? You might not have got ill in that 30 years, right? But your body will be taking the hit, right? And that's what's happening in all of our bodies. It's taking a hit. Anyone watching this will want to do something about that. And I feel that I've got a very good product that harmonizes all the radiation and brings that field into resonance with your body, which is what we want.
And thank you so much, Tim, for that inspiring and enlightening conversation.
To find out more and to discover how it works, please see the links below.